Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight for the Client for Life panel. We're super excited for this one. Hope you guys all had a great Thanksgiving and are ready to finish out the new year. We are here with some of our awesome BAB partners. As always, we have Zach Cusac from Art of Homeownership. We have Michael Riker from Oggvo, and we have Ernie Graham joining us from Homebot. So thank you guys for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So jumping right into this, we're talking Client for Life today. When you think about the Client for Life cycle, the first step is really identifying who you work the best with. So finding those clients that are going to have a good experience during the whole process. So how would you say, Zach, I'll kick it over to you first. What's the best way to identify that demographic so that you're working with the best people possible?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's most important is, once you understand who your customer is, whether you're going after, self-employed borrowers, you're going after veterans, understanding who that audience is and what makes them tick, what's most important to them. When you're targeting veterans, that's a much more disciplined buyer. So the way that you communicate, the way that you gather information, the way that you engage them, they just have a different set of discipline kind of being in the military. So it's always, for us, when you're identifying your customers and when you're targeting your customers, you want to make sure that, you've got really your follow-up, because generating leads is not the hard part. The challenge is always, how you're going to communicate, how you're going to take those people from interest to decision. And that's really a big part of what we would focus on is not just, identifying your customer, but the messaging to get them from, interest to decision.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. Michael?
Yeah, so one of the big things that I like to be able to do, to help brokers is to be able to focus on building long-term relationships with their clients by being able to help bridge the gap between brokers and borrowers through communication, some of the things that Zach was saying there. With targeted communication to your audience, as you're bringing leads in from different sources, when you're able to pinpoint and identify, how each of those demographics are reacting to your communication, the process that your brokerage has, the marketing that you're doing, the brand that you've developed. When you've been able to identify all of that, it'll really help you with building those long-lasting relationships with those borrowers. So then that way you can identify that demographic so you can generate consistent new loans, refinance, and repeat loans, generate new reviews and referrals, and then continue to keep repeating that process.
Yeah. Ernie?
Well, I think it's an interesting question because when I first heard you say that, I was like, well, whatever clients that you're already attracting, those are the clients. I think the question is like, which are more suitable for Client for Life? And from my perspective, they're all suitable for Client for Life. Every client that you're already bringing in the door is suitable for Client for Life. And it's interesting because I don't want to be Pollyannish about it, like say, oh, well, every consumer and every customer in every industry, because it's just not true. But what we have found as an industry is that our customers want more from us as loan officers. They want to have a relationship that has value, intrinsic value to them after the close. And I don't think we have to think too hard about this anymore. Every one of our existing customers and every one of our existing targets desire a Client for Life. Well, they don't think of it as Client for Life. They desire a long-term relationship. And I just think it's up to us to give it to them. I think we're going to dig into some of those topics today about what does that mean for them. But this is one of the largest transactions, someone's ever going to do in their life. Refi, purchase, doesn't really matter. And like I said, I think that the vote is in, and that is they want something more. We just got to figure out what it is that they actually want and then give it to them, because the benefits, again, I think the benefits of having a Client for Life, the repeat and the referral stuff speaks for itself.
Right. Yeah. And that's a good point. And I think the biggest thing really is creating value, because they want that follow-up process, because a lot of the consumers don't know what the brokers know. So if you know that and can communicate it, then that's a win all day long.
No doubt.
So having said that, and Ernie, I'll go back to you first with this one. So during the process, when you're, a lot of the time when we think about Client for Life, it's, how do I follow up to keep them in the pipeline long term? But during that process, how do you really nurture the relationship so that they're created into a Client for Life? So what can you do during the loan process?
So I think there's two ways of thinking about this. but it kind of centers on what I call the halo effect. So when you deliver great service for somebody, no matter what it is that you do, but particularly in this industry, there's this halo. And this halo, actually, we know it lasts about 13 months. So when you deliver great service and you do something great by getting someone closed on their purchase, on their refi, you've saved them money, you've got them into their home. You've got about a year, right, where they're going to remember you and think positively about you, kind of no matter what. But it starts with delivering great service. So I guess in that way, it's more transactional, right? But really, I mean, I don't have to preach this. You don't have, I mean, everybody, this is what you should be thinking about anyway, is deliver a great experience, because it will have this natural halo effect. I think the important part of that question is, well, what happens after the halo dies off? Well, the honeymoon fades away.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, we used to think that it was good enough that people just remembered our names, that they would remember us on and on and on, but that's not good enough anymore. You actually have to remember your name. And the only way they remember your name is if you provide value with that. And so I think, to be more specific to your question, is that obviously deliver a great experience in terms of that transaction, but then blow their mind by actually caring about them the day after, the week after, the month after, giving them something of value. Of course, you know, Homebot, that's our shtick, that's our thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you're going to give them something of intrinsic value, but you can do what you can do, right, to deliver great experience. But then what really, this happens over and over, and I hear it all the time. When that customer of yours, in our case, gets a Homebot or anything of value a day, a week, a month after the transaction, their minds are blown, because so much of their life they have only transactional relationships. The point is, it's like, well, why would this loan officer care about me? They've already got their commission. They already closed the deal, right? And so the last thing I'll say about that, I do believe that there's some continuity here, that the transaction, even though we think about it closed on this day, well, actually there was the pre-transaction and the post-transaction. So you've got like that 30, 60, 90 days. You really have to think about it that way, and then build continuity to give them something of value. Again, you know, intrinsic financial advice, value, something that shows that you actually care about them after you've already closed the deal. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I love that. Zach, I'll kick it over to you for this one.
Yeah, no, I love it. And I think Ernie touched on a number of really good points just about delivering value. And I think, you know, with the art of homeownership and you know, really what we focus on is delivering value before, during, and after a transaction. I think, you know, this is a relationship driven business, and the mortgage broker who has the most relationships, who's delivering the most value, is going to get the most referrals. You know, I think at the end of the day, there's tons of lead sources that you can go after, but your past clients are always going to be your highest and best converting lead sources. So it's, how can you educate? How can you, you know, deliver that sort of value? And I think the big thing with, you know, when you buy a home, you refinance a home, that's the biggest debt that most people have in their lifetime. So how are you educating that consumer on how to manage that debt, how to manage their home, how to, you know, take care of that, you know, that real estate property that they have, so that, you know, they're getting the most bang for their buck. And I really have always found, you know, just the process of, you know, helping educate, of helping maintain, and providing, you know, borrowers with content, with information that's unique to them. You know, everyone knows there's CRMs out there that have that monthly dish recipe that goes out, and it's really, you know, no one really cares about that. You know, and I think with Homebot, they've got the monthly wealth digest report. It's a, you know, a tool that we use within our platform, and I think it's unique to that individual borrower, and the content that they're getting, the information that they're getting is unique to them. And I think, you know, mortgage professionals and brokers, if you're able to educate, you're able to deliver value and deliver information that's meaningful and it's unique to that individual borrower, that's where that relationship's going to grow. You know, it's not just about having them remember you, you know, a year from now, it's 5 years from now, it's 10 years from now, and it's helping them manage that mortgage throughout the lifetime of it. And that's really what we focus on, you know, with Art of Homeownership. Is just, it's about delivering value before, during, and after the transaction, and having the tools so that you're able to automate and make that process as easy as possible for the mortgage professionals, because we all know that there's only so much time in the day, and they need systems to be able to do that. And I think the more education, the more value, the more unique value that you deliver to your borrowers, the better that experience is going to be, the more referrals you're going to generate. I always like to think the first 90 days after a transaction, that's when people are out with their friends talking about how they bought a home, they refinanced a home. That's when you're going to get the greatest opportunity to get plugged. And if you're, giving them meaningful information, giving these borrowers meaningful deliverables that's going to help them in their home buying process, they're going to remember you. They're going to tell your friends, and those leads are going to convert at the highest level. And that's really where you're going to see the success as a mortgage broker.
Zach, when you said that too, it almost, for what I hear so much of, it's almost like in the post-close world, when you're providing value in the post-close world, number one, it's post-close. So it's like, it's going to be years before you're even going to get another transaction. But also, and actually that's kind of the point though, is that you're so far removed of actually getting any value back to you as a loan officer that it actually feels really benevolent. It actually feels like you care.
Yeah.
It's not just about closing a deal, but particularly post-close. I think that is the opportunity here that so few professionals really understand, is that when you really pour it on to create value and you're like, damn the torpedoes, I don't care if I ever get paid again from this relationship. That's when you have outsized opportunity to create that type of signal to noise with somebody that causes them to want to interrupt a conversation 6 months, 12 months, 18, 24 months and say, hey, I heard you talking about a loan. I got this guy. He actually cares.
That's exactly it. 100%. That's exactly it. Being able to, just deliver meaningful information, meaningful value, and the way that you're communicating with, with your borrowers and with your clients, and, giving them something with no expectation of return, that's where it's at. That's where the win comes from.
Yeah. So Michael, kicking it over to you. I know, with Oggvo, you see people leaving these reviews and that's how they generate their reviews. So how would you say borrowers, what do they do during the process that ultimately gets them those reviews in the end?
Yeah, so I definitely agree with the points that Ernie and Zach both made there. At Oggvo, we definitely preach similar principles. And one of the big things that we start with is coaching brokers on the importance of building relationships and reputation throughout the entire process. And then not just from the beginning, but then also post-process, especially during the first 90 days, the way the both of you were just discussing. In 2020, more so than ever, it's easier than ever to be able to let market fluctuations or refinance booms or any of those things get us distracted and make us very transactional about how we're communicating with our clients and only trying to find that next deal with some of the uncertainty in the market as far as how things were going, and forgetting the aspect of the building the relationship part. So to be able to, the big main thing with that is, don't forget to check in with them about, how the process was until, it's at the end, or, wait to forget because you get so wrapped up and busy. And then, you're 30, 60, 90 days out from the clear to close before you're even checking back in with them about, what the experience was even like with you throughout, a lot of the time people can be working on a loan anywhere from, 30 days to, like you said, about 13 months, depending on kind of what their specific situation is for where they're at in the buying process or refinancing. So being able to remember to check in at key points and key milestones, congratulating them on the milestones that they've specifically, have accomplished, being very clear in your communication about what has happened and what's going to happen next. One thing I like to be able to work with my brokers on is during this process, when you're helping them with specific, parts of it, finding out who they know that has similar situations. Maybe you can help a friend or a family member that's been experiencing something similar that you just walked them through. So being able to do that, and then, how to communicate with that during, beginning and after about that, using automated text, email, social media campaigns to be able to make sure that you are doing those things consistently throughout the process and after.
Yeah, we all love automation.
And Val, by the way, it dawned on me when Zach and Michael were just talking about this, like with the refi boom and like all these new customers.
Yeah,
there are two types of brokers out there. they're both doing transactions, but the one that's using Art of Homeownership, Oggvo, they're the ones that are not just doing the transaction, but they're doing these things to do the next transaction 2 years, 5 years, 7 years from now. They are the outsized winners right now.
Right.
So right now the scoreboard's only showing, oh, I did this many refis, volume refis for 2020, 2021. But what's really sneaky and cool about it is you've got so many professionals, brokers out there right now that are using these systems because they know they didn't just do one deal. They just did 3 deals. They just haven't booked those other 2 yet because they're so committed to using the systems that way. And what I hope that this does today, that our discussion today, is that if you're in that other group, it's not too late for you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But you are going to get your clock cleaned if you don't think about how your client for lifing your database and all the new deal flow that you have right now, because you either fit into one of those categories. You're either using these systems and you're committed to this, to client for life, or you're not.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. Ernie, what you're saying is interest rates are going to go up. And when they do, how are you going to separate yourself? How are you delivering that value? How are you educating your clients? And you need to have a plan for 6, 12, 24 months from now, what you're going to do to separate yourself.
Yeah. And Ernie, I love what you said, because we touch so much on, okay, your pipeline is so full and you're so busy. And a lot of brokers will say, oh, I don't have time. Like, we stress this so much, but if you implement these systems, it's going to pay off so much for you in the long run. You can't afford to not do it. Like, the payoff is just immense. And especially with how much business is flowing right now, it's the time to take advantage of it.
One little top producer trick that we just came across over the last couple of months is our broker customers who are losing deals are putting those non-clients on Homebot. So even though somebody else got the deal and they lost, they're still going to win long term, because, by the way, that's somebody that cares. Oh my gosh, I didn't even do the deal with this guy over here, and he's giving me a thing of value. He's saying thank you. He's giving me a thing for value. Who does that? All the client for life people do that. So that's why I say, even when you win the deal, you can be the short-term winner, but the long-term loser.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So these next 2 questions I'm going to combine, because we've really touched on, when you're reaching out to these past clients, you just need to be creating value and you need to be caring. But with these transactions only going every 7 years, how do you really keep the borrowers engaged in between those 7 years when you're not doing a transaction with them? So what does that process look like as far as cadence, and what type of content are you following up with?
I mean, I could start with that one. With our tool and our platform, the Art of Homeownership, there's a home concierge service. There's the monthly wealth digest, which is powered by Homebot, and the information that we're sharing is unique to them, and the cadence is really customized. And I'll give an example with that. With our home concierge service, so I live in Southern California. There's recently been some fires, and we had to evacuate our home. And as soon as I was back in our home concierge service sent me a reminder that I need to get new air filters. And see, that's communication, that there's not a cadence put behind it, but it's unique. It's something that's, it's measurable. It's something that's specific to my home. And I think, throughout the lifetime, as long as the information and what you're communicating and how you're whether it's an annual financial review component, whether it's, the monthly wealth digest, the cadence behind the communication needs to be customized. It needs to be relevant to that individual borrower. And we really like to focus on content that, it's not blanketed, but it's unique to that individual, because that's where you're going to see the higher engagements. And I know Ernie can touch on these numbers with Homebot, but we see 90+% open rates on the Homebots and the monthly wealth digest, and that's because it's unique to that individual. And that's really how we like to stress it. Is it's not just about a cadence of communication; it's about messaging and information and systems that are unique and they add value, and it's relevant to that individual borrower. So that's really how we like to focus, our style of cadence communication.
And Zach, one of the things that you said there was systems, and that's a scary word. It feels kind of an ambivalent word. It's a weird word. What's a system and that sort of thing. But when I hear you say that, it makes me think about my answer to the question was, well, what do you do? Well, you got to get 30 hours of work out of an 8-hour workday. So how do you do that? As individuals now, you're unscalable without putting technology to work for you.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a difference between using technology and putting technology to work for you. For most everybody that's going to be watching this, we all know what it feels like when you feel like you're a slave to email or you're a slave to technology, versus when you put technology to work for you, it's engaging and delivering value and personalizing and doing these things while you sleep. And that's what systems do, like Art of Homeownership. It ties and weaves these different things together. So it's like a big red easy button. It's just doing in the background. And if I'll say one more thing, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, this business was different because people would, you'd bring your past clients into the office or you take them out to lunch. You can't do that anymore. People are all on their phone, and it's like, in a lot of ways, you're almost a victim of your own success. You just have too big of a database. You can't give the human touch to everybody. That's why I say it's not just about using technology. It's about using systems that work for you. So if you feel like that you're working for it, and believe me, you'll know it. You know it when it's happening. That means you're losing, because you can't scale that. And you certainly can't compete with all the other people that are actually doing it the way Zach's talking about it in a scalable way.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, it's either working for you or you're working for it.
Michael, I'll kick it over to you.
Yeah, absolutely love what you guys are talking about with the systems and getting systems in place that will work for you. Because a lot of the things that happens with brokers when they, get technology, they see a new thing that might be able to help them solve some sort of a problem for them. If it's not working for you and it ends up being something that you're spending, more time on, working on it rather than it working for you, it ends up not really accomplishing the goals that you want to be able to have. And for you to be able to, get through the first transaction properly first before you can even focus on, referrals and the second and third touches first, it really comes back to having those systems in place for you that are going to help you build those long-lasting relationships with your client, being able to provide them with relevant content. And how you're going to be able to do that is with, being able to engage with them on what is important for them, not looking at them as, just a number of another transaction, another refi, finding out detailed information around how you can engage with them through newsletters, text messages, social media, wishing them happy birthdays, talking about anniversaries that they have with their spouses, graduations maybe where their kids might be coming up with, schools that their, kids just got into college, all of these, sports teams that they follow, so you can engage with, schedules of those things. Just all of those different things is how you're going to be able to put systems to use and in place for you to keep yourself top of mind and keep that relationship. And with being able to implement those cadences, one of the things that a lot of the top producers, lenders, and brokers that I've been working with over the last several years, once you've built that relationship with that person and you have the right systems in place to get that done, one good rule of thumb that will really help you, post-close will, once you've made that borrower your client, is to be able to make sure that you can get at least one online review from them in one particular place, whether it's Google or it's Facebook, and then being able to leverage that relationship long-term to generate one new referral from that same person. So that way you keep continuing to stay relevant with them. You've closed them. You can keep leveraging their review that they left you at whatever point that is to generate new referrals. And then through the communication and the systems in place that you have with them, you will be able to then, keep turning them into new referral opportunities. And then also, when it's time for them to do business again with a refi, or they purchase a new house and move up or move down, whatever their specific situation is, you'll be the one that will earn that business at that time.
Yeah, and especially going off of reviews, we'll jump to the next question, and this is really relevant to Oggvo. So, Michael, I'll give it to you again. A lot of these brokers do they rely on word of mouth business. So keeping people in their network and working with other people that they know. So what's the best way to really leverage your reputation and be able to communicate that to potential new clients?
Yeah, so I mean, leveraging your reputation really, especially now more than ever, starts with what your digital presence looks like. Word of mouth business has always been the, best way to grow business. It's always typically the warmest contact that you'll ever heard of someone telling somebody else about a service that they had a good experience with. And right now, all of the statistics show that over 90% of consumers, I mean, there's different stats that range from 90 all the way up to like 96, depending on what source you look at or where it comes from, of the consumer is going to look up a business before they use them or buy any sort of a service with them. So that's also going to be important also with referral partners and things that you work with too, of having their reputation look good as well. So whether someone finds you through, the great website that you have, there's lots of great website providers out there, some in this group, whether they find you through the advertising and the marketing that you're doing or the social media content and posts that you're doing up. The whole point on why we do those things is to be able to get your name and your brand and your business in front of them. There's a silent step that consumers take now most of the time before they actually end up pulling the trigger and using you as that broker. And they're going to look you up. So when they take that, it's very important to make sure that you are creating that stop sign with your digital presence. Because the one thing you can't track as a business owner, you can track conversion rates, percentages on your leads, all of those things. The one thing you can't track is how many opportunities went to go look up your digital presence, and they don't see the same thing that maybe their friend told them about you online. So that's one key thing to be able to, make important with that. And then the importance of this is that when you're generating these consistent reviews and you're doing it with the right keyword optimization, say on a Google business page, or you're getting your clients to talk about the things, say if you want to be found for a broker in a specific area, not a lender, not, those things, but specifically you want someone who's searching for a broker to find you in your local market. One key aspect that can help you with that is having your clients, through their reviews, talk about you being a broker and the experience that they've had there with you. That's important data that'll help you rank locally in your local area. And when you rank locally like that and you let your clients do that marketing for you, it'll allow you to turn your reviews into referrals. And another big way that you can do this and keep all of that and keep allowing your referrals to work for you is being able to stream them to your social media outlets. That way you can, showcase and encourage your borrowers to look you up when they're coming across you and being able to become an influence in your local community.
Yeah. Zach?
I with everything, Michael, you were saying there, having a strong reputation is so critical, because when people are at that point of looking at Yelp, looking at Google My Business and checking out the reviews, they're in that buying decision, phase. So,
Absolutely.
you have those systems in place to help generate those reviews and really triggering that to, the close of your transactions and being able to have that system. What I've always found from a marketing standpoint and growing the reviews, and Michael, you're obviously the pro on this, but, asking for those reviews right before the loan has funded and they've got that warm and fuzzy feeling and they get an email or communication around it, they're more likely to open and engage and share that review. And, the more reviews you have, the more validation you have online, the higher that conversion rate's going to be with your lead sources and your referrals. And especially what we're talking about, that client for life panel, we really want every client for brokers to be a sales rep for their business. And when those sales reps are generating referrals for them, they're going to check out, what do people say? What is that experience like? How did that mortgage broker make them feel throughout the transaction? And having these strong reviews on Yelp, on Google My Business are going to help convert those opportunities. And it's imperative that you've got a system in place to get those reviews.
Yeah, I also like that you said, Zach, that they could share the review, because I think if a borrower shares it to their network, that means so much, because all those people in their network already know them and trust them a lot more than just seeing it on social media somewhere. So that's huge. But Ernie, I'll kick it over to you.
Yeah, actually, I think, what Michael was saying was spot on, where you use the words of your past clients and you've laid that out there so that other people can find those words. I think that's really powerful. I also think that in the way that I think about it, you know, at Homebot, we think maybe less about that in terms of that approach, and more about what I like to call like keeping your clients activated. Now it's less sophisticated, but if you can think about it, like if you had 200 past clients, if you could keep half of them activated, permanent honeymoon, you have 100 humans out there that are social. And now, whether they're digitally social during COVID or they're social, you know, in restaurant environments and you know, dinner parties and that sort of thing. But the point is that the power of 100 humans on this planet out there actively listening for opportunities to give to you, I think that's a very exciting. It's very different than what Michael's talking about. But again, I just think about, you know, keeping 100 people. It's almost like having 100 marketing directors that are always out there, latent, waiting, listening for the opportunity to plug you in. Why do they want to plug you in? Is what we said earlier, because they've decided you care. You actually, I should say, you actually care. And in this world, to find people that actually care, I mean, you hang on to them. You hang on to them.
Yeah, totally.
So from your perspective, I mean, obviously a lot of brokers have referral partners as far whether it's real estate agents. How can partnering and really leveraging these other industry professionals help when creating the client for life mentality? Zach, start with you.
Yeah, no, I think that, you know, building a network of strategic partners, not just realtors, but your financial advisors, your CPAs, your trust attorneys, you know, those sorts of, and what I've always found with financial advisors, what's most important to them is that their clients have that world-class experience. You know, it's not necessarily a realtor, you know, where it's just a 1v1 type of referral, you know, so building out those channels where you can add value to their clients and these systems that we keep talking about, you have these systems in play, you know, that's going to really help you, you know, with those sorts of referrals, but it's also the ability to refer back to them and having like what we use with the Art of Homeownership. We've got an annual financial review tool. And during those annual financial reviews, you're asking, you know, what their borrowers have in terms of protection for insurance, you know, how they're, you know, what they're doing in terms of their, you know, financial, you know, investments. And you're asking these sorts of questions, which helps you generate those referrals for these, what we call alternative strategic partners. So those financial advisors, CPAs, trust attorneys, and having the ability to come to those CPAs with, hey, I've got a referral that needs some help with tax planning, going to your, you know, insurance broker, hey, I've got, you know, someone who needs some help with life insurance. You know, that's where you really start to build the rapport and you strengthen those relationships, and, you know, going after more, you know, alternative partners in addition to your realtor partners is really, we're going to see those additional layers of success. And, you know, going back to 6 months, 12 months, 24 months from now, when brokers aren't able to have these, you know, awesome rates that are going on right now, is you really need to be thinking today, how can I find these partners and add value to their business so that there's reciprocation going on?
Right. Ernie?
Well, I think that the partner thing is an interesting thing, because once you as a broker have bought in and made investments of your own time and your energy and your brain to get into this client for life business, which is a good business to be in, you have an opportunity now to do two things. One, you can now bring that to partners, bring that renaissance, bring that enlightenment, whatever you want to call it. You can bring that to your partners because you're speaking your own truth. You're speaking from your own results of what's happening. And I'll tell you, all of those different partners, whether it's real estate agents, whether it's wealth advisors, whether it's insurance agents, they all care about client for life. I think that's number one, to be able to bring that truth and that learning and understanding to them. I think the second part of this is that when you have partners that get on the same tracks with you as it relates to client for life, you now have a subject matter that's not just a one-off thing that you've talked about. Now it's almost like you get to mastermind around this subject matter day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. It becomes something that, that you get to socialize with these partners. That I know this sounds silly, but we see it all the time with Homebot. When we see brokers partner with real estate agents, they don't do this thing where it's like, hey, I got this cool shiny metal object here, use it. No, they say, hey, I'm using this cool thing over here, and I think if you used it with me, you could get the same results. And then they routinely have like masterminds, ad hoc masterminds or group masterminds, whereas instead of them like squared up talking to their partner, they're actually shoulder to shoulder sharing and thinking and really working on best practices on how to take it to the next level, take it to the next level, take it to the next level. And I know that sounds touchy-feely, but when you see it in action where technology now can be a social object, if you will, almost like a Starbucks class where you say, oh, you drink Starbucks, I drink Starbucks. Let's talk about coffee, right? Or whatever. I know that's a simplistic example. But when you introduce this notion of client for life to your partners, it will be the gift that keeps giving. And the good news is, to the degree that they're successful with their systems and their technology that are aimed towards client for life, as a partner, you're successful too.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to think about it. Like, not only just tossing referrals back and forth, but really creating that value for one another, and putting that value back into the relationship is so important. So I like that a lot.
100%.
Michael?
Okay, so the spin I want to be able to put on this a little bit is, building a strong reputation in a way is a reflection on your referral partners. If you're going to real estate agents and financial advisors and you're asking them to trust you with their client that's already their client, and then they go to look you up and you don't have that strong backing that your referral partner is trying to say, it's not going to make them look in the best light, so it's not going to continue to keep helping them build conversation, reputation and things on their own end with them and relationships with their own clients. So one of the reasons why that's important is when I ask brokers where they're a lot of the time, what's your best source of new business? Most of the time, it's always referrals from my referral partners or from my past clients. Those are typically two of the biggest ways on how to be able to do that. So when you're getting these referrals from your clients, you need to make sure that you're continuing to keep providing that great experience, that great service, providing essentially that white glove experience for these referrals. And then that'll allow you to continue to keep generating those referrals from those referral partners.
Preach, Michael, preach. No, it's such a brilliant take, Michael. You really knocking it out of the park on that one. I love, it's like trust, but verify. If you're only a couple of clicks from verifying that referral is really good, then that's the set. Why would you want to blow it on that part? I love this.
Exactly. And so once you have established that relationship, one of the other things on how to make this a two-way conversation or two-way relationship with those referral partners is then being able to coach those referral partners on building, their own rankings, their own reviews, their own digital footprints. Because when you can help them duplicate the same thing on why their clients are getting a good experience with you, not only will that make them keep sending you more people, it'll build their pipelines more by being found organically the same ways that you'll be able to do it. So you create that circle of, you just essentially being able to rinse and repeat this process with your referral partners.
Yeah, exactly. Well, guys, I cannot thank you enough. This provided so much value. So Zach, Michael, Ernie, thanks for taking time away from your vacation to join us. We appreciate it. For anyone watching, I hope you guys got as much value as you should from this. And I think Ernie said it best. It's not too late for any of you to put these processes in place. So if you aren't implementing this client for life mentality, the time to do it is now. So get these processes in place. It's a good time for 2021 so that you can keep that pipeline flowing and keep building your business. So thank you guys again for joining us. We appreciate you all.
Thanks, Val.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
See ya.
Bye.